My dudes, not even gonna lie to you guys, man. Today was a rough one. Was not really today's efforts in and of themselves that was rough. It was the fact that yesterday, when I got done editing, it was about 2 or 3 in the morning, and oh man, after I got done, like I crashed out, but I kept tossing and turning, and then I ended up waking up late so that I could get enough sleep, and then it was just kind of dragging ass through the day. But we still got in the studio and we got it fucking done, baby. We did it. We got in and we are out. So today, technically, I'm recording this after the day's work, but it was a great day of work indeed. And so I don't have a big preamble for you guys, which may come as a relief to you. And yeah, man, I'm just gonna walk you through what I got done today and not waste any time. So let's get into it, dude. I'm exhausted. Hell yeah, dude. We're starting from the darks to the lights. Man, I'm kind of enjoying not having the palette camera. What do you guys think? Do you guys like the palette cam, or is it kind of superfluous? Is it, just sort of a bore? Is it better to just kind of have a nice big panorama or a nice like wide shot of the time lapse? You tell me, man. I'm open to it. But I started today with the figure, mostly because I wanted to get it out of the way, because it's the most, it's like I'm always saying that the background is the most tedious part, but in fact it's the figure, man. I mean, it's like there's so much more detail and all that stuff. So I started with that today to get it done, and then I managed to find well, it was the one that I used for the abstract. It was like a Mars Orange by Williamsburg, and I found that using that color pretty much straight out of the tube is pretty exactly spot on to the reference. So I didn't have to make any big mixtures today. And what I did do is like a lot of sitting in today's session. I guess you can't really tell right now, but I positioned the canvas a little lower so that I could sit, and I was having to kind of work on the top part standing up, but man, I just sort of needed a break. But yeah, so having the Williamsburg color out of the tube was a huge help for this piece, and I think going to be doing so moving forward. And I'm going to try to see if I can find good ready-made colors out of the tube that are good for the background as well, because that'll save me a little bit of time just mixing. And for me, I personally like to try to be as efficient as possible. I personally don't take any sort of pride in I take pride in my color mixing and matching skills, but if I need to get if there's a way to make things easier on myself and more efficient, I will most definitely do that. So finding this color for the background was pretty perfect, and using it today was pretty much of a lifesaver, man, because I was just exhausted. Here I'm finally sitting down, and I was just like kind of been yawning all day, and it's been sort of a pain. And I don't mean to bore you guys with all that stuff. I mean, at the end of the day, I'm like incredibly lucky to be doing this, so it's not like I have any real complaints about anything. It's just the day was a difficult, strenuous, and tedious one, but now we are getting it done either way and moving forward, and I'm very, very happy and proud of that. Here we are, just as usual, doing our little outline here, our little tracing around the perimeter of the figure so that I can go in and start filling in the background. And this color is just really great. I really love it. It's a perfect kind of, it's called burnt orange, and I think that's a pretty great name for it. And it's sort of very close to that terracotta color that I wanted. It is pretty exact, actually, in my estimation. But here I put some tape on the border, which I hadn't done on the last one, and you can kind of see a little bit of like the choppy brushwork, kind of trying to keep the perimeter perfectly, or keeping that little edge nice and straight. And I got it for the most part, but you can see a few discrepancies on the painting to the left of it. Another thing, man, I'm realizing is that I usually photograph them right where they're at, and I'm realizing that it's not really the best place to photograph, because they all end up having this kind of glare to them. and I'm sure you're gonna see it when I post the finished photo of this one. So it's not like the best spot to photograph, so I think what I'm going to do probably tomorrow is move all of them to the wall to the right of me, and I'm just going to re-photograph them one by one so that I can get a nice photo that has no glare or any little hot spots of light. The lighting in the studio is actually positioned pretty perfectly to give me a good balanced left and right kind of flanking light so that it's evenly distributed on the surface. I'm going to slow the video down here for a second to show you guys how I went in with the airbrush again on the cat. I've been doing that for some of them and I really enjoy it. I don't think they all need it or want it, but the ones that do, it's definitely a pretty good thing to do. So here I'm using the airbrush again, and I'm going in with the background color and just diffusing that border as much as I can on the first go. And so I'm just going to trace around it little by little, making sure that I'm just kind of really touching the edge, because that's what I want to diminish. There's not really any other goal aside just diminishing the edge. And I'm using my Iwata airbrush, and it's got a little knob stop on it that prevents you from pulling further back on the trigger than you want to, because the more that you pull back on the trigger, the more paint comes out of the airbrush. And so this little stopper, what it does is it makes it so that you can only go so far back, and that's a really big help, especially if you need to not go farther back, because you'll get like these big shots of paint coming out of the brush, and it's not the best if you're being tedious and if you're being like detail oriented rather. So here we've got this guy, and I kind of went into it a little bit more just to try to diffuse it as much as possible. And I'm pretty sure at some point I stopped to mix the new color, and I think that I'll just kind of skip over that. I haven't edited the footage down, so I'll just do that as I'm speaking, basically. And again, I also decided to go in on the hand a little bit on this one as well. I thought it would be a good idea. I've done it on another one too, and I thought it was a good look in the end, so I decided to do that one here. Being meticulous and trying to diffuse that border. And here I'm coming back in with the darker color, and I'm trying to stay a good close distance to the surface. One of the things to keep in mind that's kind of difficult with the airbrush in oil is that you want to stay far enough away so that you get a good diffusion of your edges, but you don't want to get so far that you have a lot of overspray, because then you have to come in and do a lot of correcting. But then on the other hand, you don't want to get too close either, because then the pressure of the air can tend to diffuse, or sort of like, it's called spidering, and it's when you have too much paint that comes out, and then just the liquid starts to disperse to the sides, and it's just like it's like the airbrush version of a smudge, and so you really don't want that. So it's kind of a delicate balance. The distance part is a very delicate sort of dance. So here I went in, and it was a little bit too much, but what I ended up doing in the end was coming back in for another round of light color, and I didn't record it because I thought it was good at this point, and so I stopped. But then when I came back in, it was like, okay, I needed a little bit more to it. So I went back in and did that. So let's cue the B-roll, or let's take a look at the final painting. And you can see that I went back in and did some corrections, and you can also see a bunch of that glare, which it is what it is at the moment, I guess, but tomorrow I'll rectify it. So yeah, dudes, great productive day in the studio. I'm going to just plug in and finish editing, and then get this uploaded and probably crash out as soon as I'm done. It's 9 o'clock right now, p.m. Texas time, and I'm exhausted. but tomorrow's going to be a great day as well. Tomorrow's Saturday. Oh, it's Friday the 13th too. I forgot about that, man. That's why today is kind of off as well. Tomorrow's Saturday, and I think the plan for tomorrow, I'm either going to work on the abstract or I'm going to do some plein air painting, or both. So we'll see. We'll see, and I'll see you tomorrow.